Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and here we are for our last episode of our Tomb Kings faction focus, where we are looking at the 8th edition rules and how that might influence units in Warhammer The Old World, i.e. their role and flavour is likely to be the same in this book as it is in Warhammer The Old World, despite the rules being different. Now, this is the last episode. We've done the Legendary Lords. I hope you've watched that video. We're now going to look at the Legendary Heroes. As I said in the Legendary Lords video, we've no idea if these are going to be in Warhammer The Old World. The timelines are different, but the Tomb King's nature is these characters do exist in that timeline, but whether they will be carried across, nobody knows yet. But without further ado, let's look at what we have. So the first one is the Herald Nekaf. He never had a miniature. Known as the Emissary of Settra. He was Settra's personal herald, champion, and most trusted servant. Nekaf was also the first to commit suicide when Settra was killed, and when Settra awoke, Nekaf was already by his side waiting to serve. Now that is loyalty. Despite his parents coming from northern barbarian tribes, he was inducted to the Tomb Guard by the age of 18 due to his loyalty and skill. Within 2 years, he became the leader of Settra's royal guard, and Settra gifted him the legendary Flail of Skulls. Nekaf was also blessed with great intelligence and was able to recite the entire 2-hour list of Settra's titles and achievements from memory. Nekaf offers enemies one chance to surrender, and if they refuse, no mercy is shown, and defiance will only end in death at the battle's end. Right, so looking at Nekaf then. So he had above average weapon skill leadership, low initiative and wounds, coming with light armour only. He had the Flail of Skulls. It was a magic weapon. It required 2 hands and gave +2 strength in the first round of combat only, but it did have the multiple wounds too. Now, Nekaf could be mounted on a skeletal steed or chariot for extra points. Special rules wise, well, flammable and Nehekaran undead as normal, but he does have killing blow because he is Tomb Guard. He is the Herald of Despair, so enemy do roll 1 additional d6 during a fear test and discard the lowest. Swarm Bodyguard as per the other heralds, and also Settra's Champion, which means he must issue a challenge if he can, and during a challenge he gets a 5+ ward save and a 5+ killing blow. Now, no miniature was released, and at double the points cost of a normal Tomb Herald, despite not being able to take a battle standard or have a magic standard, he acts more like a Tomb Prince without the unit buff. So really only taken if creating that Death Star style unit of Tomb Guard and using him to protect the Tomb King, though I still think a normal Herald does a better job, and it's also made the unit very expensive and becoming a primary target on the table and having slow speed and no march, and therefore made it easily avoidable. Overall, a really nice flavour of what Nekaf is, however doesn't really translate in the rules to justify his high points cost, and again a standard herald with battle standard would have been more use and still have the bodyguard ruled, won't have to issue challenges against potentially dangerous characters, so, and I say you can get that magic standard, which is way more valuable. Next up is Prince Apophas the Cursed Scarab Lord, which has a really cool flavorful looking miniature which does absolute justice to his lore. But then who is he? Well, he's a jealous prince who murdered the royal family of Numas to claim the crown. However, the people rebelled and he was dragged to the temple for justice. Now, bear in mind that the royal family he murdered was his own. He therefore warranted the most severe punishment, being entombed alive with scarab beetles. I think I've seen that in a movie somewhere. His screams could be heard outside the temple walls, and when the lid was opened, there was no sign of beetles, only his skull picked clean of flesh. Azirian claimed his soul, but because he was a noble, Apophas was able to strike a bargain that he would claim a soul to stand in his place. Apophas now appears as a swarm of beetles like a revenant, with his skull at the top carrying the same blade that he murdered his family with. Only by slaying the perfect soul can he win his freedom. He binds his target into a soul cage, and the soul is then taken to the underworld and compared on a set of scales. However, Apophas doesn't know that the truth is no two souls are ever equal, and he will therefore never win his freedom. Apophas himself there, above average weapon skill, strength, wounds, attacks and leadership, but he does have a low toughness. Comes with a hand weapon and light armour. It's a shame that hand weapon, that dagger that he has, wasn't magical, I think. Special rules, well, he's got quite a few. So Nehekarn undead, he flies, so that's pretty cool to start with. 10-inch move. He causes terror, that's great. He gets entombed beneath the sand for free. And he has regeneration, that's 4+ regeneration. After a failed armor save, he can ignore wounds on 4+. He's a desert revenant, so he cannot join a unit or be the army general. So he's this lone character. It's a scarab prince, so he has a strength 2 breath weapon. And on death, all enemy units in 2d6 inches will take 2d6 strength 2 hits. Soul Reaper, when placed on the table, you nominate one enemy character as soul marked, and Apophas will re-roll all failed hit and wound rolls. That's normally a nice, juicy wizard or caster, fairly weak, that Apophas could then go after. He also has Strider and doesn't take dangerous terrain tests. Apophas, he is an interesting choice. He's only 30 points more than a normal Tomb Prince. He has some interesting rules, but obviously can't buff units. I actually saw him and used him on the tabletop quite often, mainly because people love the miniature, and that his rules were quite flavourful and quite fun to play, even if he wasn't the most competitive choice. I think it's a good example, and I hope GW take this into mind when developing heroes and rules, that if you can make a hero rules fun to play and he's got a cool looking model, even if he's not the best on the tabletop, people will still take them and use them and have a lot of fun with them. And Apophas is an absolute great example of that in action. So we move on to our final legendary hero, only 3 in the Tomb King roster, and that is Ramhotep the Visionary, Necrotect of Qatar. He didn't have a miniature either, though that was less of a problem, as we'll see. He was the greatest necrotect in history, and it is said his statues in the Valley of Kings were so lifelike that the Nehekarans believed the gods themselves had returned to the mortal world. He designed the grand necropolis of Raestra, the monuments of eternal death in Zandri, and the monoliths of the Great Plains. Necrotects were expected to commit suicide after the completion of grand burial tombs, but Ramhotep avoided this by becoming a student to other masters and letting them take his place instead when he suddenly disappeared. Ramhotep greatly desired mummification because he knew he needed eternal life to finish his works, and therefore he designed the grand sepulchre of the heavens in Qatar to rival the majesty of the Grand Pyramid in Kemri. The king of Qatar was so pleased he granted Ramhotep an exquisite burial. Ramhotep awoke to find his creations in ruins, and now works relentlessly to restore them, and to construct a vast mausoleum built from the bones of his foes who defiled his work of ages past. So Ramhotep then, how does he play? Above average weapon skill, toughness and leadership with low ballistic skill initiative. Equipment wise, he's got a hand weapon, a whip and light armour, which is identical to that of the standard Necrotect. Therefore, it was easy to use a standard Necrotect as Ramhotep because essentially they looked the same. He had flammable Nehekarn Undead, Hatred, Stone Shaper, and Wrath of the Creator, just like a standard Necrotech. So the buff to constructs, giving hatred to his unit, which is reroll misses in the first round of combat. But he also gives Frantic Fervor, which gives frenzy to the unit he is with. Now, frenzy meaning you get +1 attack, but if you fail leadership test, you are going to have to charge the nearest unit. He also had Master Artisan, which at the start of the game pick one animated construct, which gains reroll all failed armor saves. That's pretty good. So there's no doubt Ramhotep was the best legendary lord or hero for the points, and at the same time he's the cheapest. So his rules are absolutely great and very useful on the tabletop for this type of army. Putting him in a unit of Tomb Guard with a Tomb King is going to give all of those guys +1 attack, combined with hatred, where they re-roll all misses, and then they have Killing Blow. So the chance of getting a lot of attacks and rolling sixes quite high, making Killing Blow quite effective. And if you've got a Tomb King in the same unit, pretty high leadership, and the chance of them failing the Frenzy leadership test quite low. Also, being able to pick an animated construct to re-roll failed armor saves is massive. You can either put that on one of your big monsters, like your Necrosphinx or something, or you can go and look at a unit like a Shabti or those Necropolis Knights with their 3+ armor save, and they can re-roll those saves. That can significantly increase the durability of those units. So as I said, while no model was released, people used the standard Necrotech to represent him. And I say, no doubt, again, a good example, GW, when you're looking at this is the set of rules that really justify taking a character like this. No, we don't want them overpowered, but they do need to be valuable and have the flavour of what he's supposed to be. He's a Necrotect, and what the rules he has there do fit that kind of flavour. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this faction focus series. This is the end. This is the last episode that we've come to the end of the Tomb Kings. I don't know what faction is going to be next. I've got a few books that I can still dig into. So there's Bretonnians, there's High Elves, there's Vampire Counts, all of those on my radar. There's others as well. So keep an eye out for the future faction focus. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't know, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. As always, if you want to see more content, please hit that subscribe button. It means such a lot for me, and it's free for you. So please, if you can do that, that would be fantastic. You've been watching The Ghost Owl. Tune back in, and I'll see you very soon.